Welcome into the RotoWire Superbowl NFL DFS show. I'm Adam Zdroik, joined by Ryan Belongia. This is it, Ryan. We've had 2 weeks to study the slate, study the prices, study every single player. So, are you ready to perfect your DFS lineup and win $1 million?
Yeah, we're gonna try. It's a tough showdown. Great game though. Rematch from 2 years ago. Game Eagles got out to a lead, ended 38-35, I believe. Hurts threw for a ton of yards. And then this week, game has a 48.5 total now. It started a little bit higher. People have been on the under. I think Chiefs also opened like -2. It's down to -1 or -1.5 in some places. So people have bet the under. People have bet the Eagles. Um, yeah, it's interesting. Like Saquon's rushing prop is, I think, 111 the last time I checked. Hurts has a lower passing prop than I would have expected. Um, yeah, there's some opportunities there. I think when we make our single game parlay at the end, I think there's a couple pieces I really like. The DraftKings slate, though, I think it's going to be really tough for a few reasons. First of all, I think the two quarterbacks are underpriced. So soft pricing on the two quarterbacks, but tight pricing after that. I think it's going to lead to like people just wanting to play both quarterbacks. It's like really hard to fade Mahomes. Saquon's priced up. It's really hard to afford all three. Um, like around the industry, I've heard people talking about cash games. Do you play Saquon or not? If you do play Saquon, do you play him with both quarterbacks? I've heard people saying it might just be a slate to avoid cash games. There's not much value. There's not much value on this slate. I think I'll be able to break it down pretty good from an ownership and projections perspective. And then, for playing tournaments, it's about just you're going to have to pick a script. You're going to have, how do you think this game's going to go and build lineups that way? There's a few ways to get different, but yeah, I don't know. I think it's probably going to be tough to be unique on this slate unless something crazy happens.
Yeah, so for this show, we're gonna do DFS talk. Probably, I don't know, 5 minutes on cash games. Then the rest of that DFS talk, just big brain, GPP routes kind of thing, how to win, how to actually win these tournaments instead of, doubling up your money in a massive GPP or something. We're here to win. We don't care about, winning a few bucks and doubling your money or whatnot. So we're going to do that. And then as we're talking, we're going to give our thoughts and throw together eventually at the end, throw together a single game parlay here between us and see what kind of odds we can get, see what kind of numbers we can get. So that's kind of what we're doing here. But yeah, as Ryan said, so I guess we were kind of talking about this before the show. And you kind of mentioned it. The odds have kind of gone down. Chiefs open -2. Now it's gone down a little bit. So I think the overwhelming sentiment here is uh, Eagles. Eagles are the more talented team. They're the better team. At least, this is what I'm hearing. And the Chiefs just win every game, basically, is what it comes down to. They have Patrick Mahomes. They win. They just win. So that's why they're favorite. A lot of the analytical people, as you said before the show, all the numbers kind of point to the Eagles probably should be favored. I've heard like -3. If you just look at their numbers from this season, the Eagles probably should be favored, whatever it is, -2, -3. And the odds don't show that. But the more numbers based people are like, yeah, I'll pick the Eagles to win because the numbers say that the Eagles should win. But if you look at the national media, I think I saw just before the show, if you're just taking all the main sites, Fox, ESPN, whatever, CBS, it's like 65% are picking the Chiefs to win, 35% Eagles. So you have like kind of like a public sentiment. Chiefs continued winning throughout the last few years. Eagles analytical numbers, underlying numbers back up the Eagles. So yeah, I think you have those two sentiments coming into this one. But um, I guess that's kind of what I want to say in terms of the odds. So I guess what does that mean? Does that mean anything for DFS? Because I guess there's more. You figure there's more. I guess the more high end money people are favoring the Eagles, and then you could say that the cash, the low end public is looking at the Chiefs. Am I just making too much out of this? Maybe.
No, I mean, I think that's the sentiment that I've heard mostly. I don't really think it matters for DFS, but I think it was kind of the same thing 2 years ago. You know, the Sharps or whoever were on the Eagles, the public was on the
I
Chiefs.
mean,
You hear
probably
this.
last year, right, with the 49ers. I mean,
Yeah,
that was a big
yep,
thing.
same as last year, same as this year. You hear your Eagles are the better team. If the Eagles play, um, if the Eagles play well, they should win. But the Chiefs have Mahomes. Um, it wasn't that long ago that the Eagles were like in crisis mode either. Like Hurts couldn't complete a pass. People calling for Sirianni. You know, I don't know. Like if you want my opinion, 2 years ago I bet on the Chiefs. Also the Eagles are the Eagles are a better team now too. They have Saquon. Their defense has been playing great. I mean, if you just go by recent form, it makes sense. The offensive line is healthy and playing great. Defense might be the best in the league. So yeah, I get it. It's tough for me to bet against Mahomes. I think this is going to be a close game. Again, I don't really think it matters from a DFS perspective, though. The pricing is really what people are going to care about.
How much are you looking at these prior matchups anyway? You mentioned the Super Bowl from a couple of years ago, 38-35. They played in the regular season. I think that was at Kansas City, 21-17. Are you looking at these matchups? Are you like, oh, Devonta Smith has had 199 yards in the 2 games against the Chiefs the last 2 years? Are you looking at stuff like that? Pacheco has had decent games. You can't really compare
Yeah,
Eagles running backs. I mean, in the Super Bowl, they had Gainwell, Sanders, Boston Scott. So you can't really look at that even. Are you looking at this prior stuff, or is it just like, okay, this is another season. It's different teams. Saquon Barkley's here. The Chiefs actually have better receivers than Juju Smith-Schuster and Justin Watson. So, so
yeah.
how much are you looking at these prior matchups?
I mean, a little bit. I've heard people talking about, Devonta Smith being the top receiver both the last 2 times these teams played. But a lot of those games were script dependent too. The last Super Bowl, the Chiefs got down big early. Um, I don't know. I think it'll depend on how the game starts. I wouldn't look too much into it. I'd look at the current versions of these teams and what we've seen recently.
Yeah, let's start with the cash look then. Just give us the breakdown. I'll just tell you my cash plays right now. We got Xavier Worthy, lock him in. Dallas Goddard, lock him in. Uh, if you want to play Harrison Butker, play him. I don't know what the cash game lobby says about
I
that. And then fill everyone else in. I think that's
I
kind of what I'm
think
looking at.
I think you're on the right track. Yeah. Mahomes is too cheap. Pretty much anywhere you look has Mahomes projecting more than Hurts, um, which is weird, but Hurts doesn't have hasn't shown quite the rushing, that he used to. Only 16 rushing yards last game, his lowest output of the season. Did have 3 rushing touchdowns though. Um, but yeah, I don't see people fading Mahomes. I think Mahomes is a lock. I think he'll be the highest owned and the highest owned captain. Um, you could consider captaining someone cheaper, um, but it's pretty dangerous to fade a Mahomes captain too. Um, yeah, I think Xavier Worthy, like you said, he's going to be the most popular wide receiver. He projects better than AJ Brown, like for 1,600 cheaper, which is also like, if you have a bone to pick with that, fine. But um, Mahomes Mahomes projects for like 9 or 10 more passing attempts than Hurts does. Again, like if you have a bone to pick with that, fine. But that's why the Chiefs are going to project better. Worthy projects best point per dollar. I think he'll be the most popular wide receiver in cash games. Most popular skill player above 8K. Like I don't really see people going to Kelsey or Brown. I mean, they'll be owned, but not like a priority. Um, Dallas Goddard, yeah, I think Goddard and Butker will be pretty popular. Both good options. Hollywood Brown right there too. I think he'll be played. Because below the kickers, I mean, there's not much at all. Like the value pieces people are looking at are Juju Smith-Schuster for 2,000 and P Ryan for 1,200. I mean, you might even see people try to go lower than that and just take a zero. The people that are playing Saquon. So yeah, I could see people like using a mid-range build. I'll just tell you, like I've seen the optimizer spit out Mahomes captain with Hurts, Worthy, Goddard, Hollywood Brown, Butker. There you go. At least 400 salary. I've seen that lineup projecting best. But like, those mid-range lineups don't feel great. You really need Hollywood and Butker to do something in that lineup. If you're going to fade, 20 points from Saquon or big games, some people will have Kelsey. Some people will have Devonta Smith, Kareem Hunt, AJ Brown, all those guys. So it's tough, Adam. I think it's why a lot of people are avoiding cash games this week. We didn't even really talk about Saquon. That's a decision right there, whether to play Saquon or not. 12,000 is expensive, and it's really like you almost have to fade. You almost have to fade Worthy. If you don't fade Worthy, you might have to captain someone cheaper. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's the breakdown. It's just about like making your own decisions after that. You can't really tell people anything more.
So you're saying all the sharps don't want to play cash games because it's too difficult. Does that mean if you have a good feel in your lineup, that means you're going to be set to win some money?
Yeah, I think if you have a feel, yeah, you can play that. It's not even because I wouldn't say it's because it's too difficult. It's just going to be like some 1v1 decisions.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like if you have a take on Saquon, you could. That's enough right there, I guess. If you want to play.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's 12K in the flex. What is he? 1,600 more than Hurts,
like,
who's the second
I've
most
heard,
expensive.
I've heard people think that Saquon's going to smash here. The offensive line is playing better, and Casey's run defense has kind of been on the decline a little bit. Mixon and James Cook just had big games, and I guess like the advanced numbers even show that their run defense hasn't been as good lately, and we've seen Philly's O-line. So yeah, I mean, if you're on Saquon, he's not going to be chalking cash games, and if he has a big game, he could probably win it for you by himself. On the flip side of that, you can try to fade Saquon and try to make the best lineup you can and win that way. So I don't know. I'm still going to play. It's tough though. Like I think besides the quarterbacks being underpriced, everything else is tight. Like if you look at the other guys we didn't talk about are just overpriced, like the DeAndre Hopkins, everyone in between Juju and the kickers, really. Gainwell, Hopkins, people aren't on the defenses here. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's really all you can say. And then for tournaments, like the Eagles receivers are going to be under-owned. AJ Brown and Devonta Smith. I think Worthy will be the most popular. You mentioned Goddard. I think he'll be very popular. So you got to make a decision there. I don't know. I think that's really it.
I put together a cash game lineup here while you're talking. I'll throw it by you here. So Goddard captain. You can get Hurts, Mahomes, Worthy, Devonta, and Butker in there. It's sort of like what you had. I think you said Mahomes captain. It removes Hollywood from there, and I think it replaces it with Devonta. So I mean, I'd feel more comfortable, obviously, with Devonta over Hollywood. So I think I don't know. Like if I'm playing cash, I think that's probably what I'm going to look at there.
Yeah, I like that lineup. I was looking at that lineup for tournaments. You can also get up to Hollywood instead of Butker in that lineup if that's what you prefer. But it rests a lot on what Goddard does. If Goddard scores 8 points or something, most people's captains are going to score 20 plus, maybe more. So you're going to be down like 6, 7, 8 points. Like if you don't get a decent game from Goddard, what if he does worse than that? So yeah, just that's the stuff you want to think about. You got to make sure you can make it up with whoever you're upgrading to. And in that case, it'd be Devonta Smith. So how confident are you that Devonta Smith is going to beat out Butker and Hollywood Brown, or whoever you don't play, like beat them out significantly? I don't know. Like, people aren't on Devonta Smith. He has the same projection as Goddard. Like, I think this is the first time ever. I heard someone say the first time, that Goddard has a higher prop than Devonta Smith, and there's a pretty big salary gap there. And the fact that AJ Brown doesn't project as well as the other guys, and he's priced so close to Hurts and the quarterbacks. So I kind of think those guys are maybe better tournament plays, probably under-owned in the captain spot. But I hear you. This is the thing. If you have a take, you can just win that way. People are going to play Hollywood Brown again. What we've seen him bust the last 2 weeks. You're confident that Devonta Smith is going to really outperform those guys. That's a way to win right there. Again, though, you have to survive having a weaker captain, though. In that lineup, you need Goddard and Smith to have good games, or one of them to have a big game. And, you look at Hurts's prop, and it's sitting at 212 yards or something. So going to have to be pretty efficient.
Oh, I feel pretty comfortable.
Yeah, I like it too. Like I said, I made that lineup. This none of the lineups you make are going to look great. They're all going to have problems, and they're all going to have scenarios where you got to fade this. You're really going to need this guy to do well. It's tight pricing besides the quarterbacks. So it's really a slate about having some takes of your own than just trying to jam the best projected guys. Really, there aren't guys that project very well besides the quarterbacks. Mahomes projects great. Worthy looks decent point per dollar. After that, not much. Goddard, Hollywood Brown, the kickers, like you said, those are the cash game options. So I guess pick your favorite one. There's not much else to say, right? There's not glaring value anywhere. You can poke holes in everything. Really, no one's a lock besides Mahomes. I've heard there's people that want to play Saquon and fade Hurts, which is also a fine option. People had been doing that recently. We saw Hurts hadn't had many good games recently. People didn't play. He was the lowest owned quarterback last week, got priced all the way down to 6,500 or something, had been scoring under 20 points most games. So if you want to play Saquon and fade Hurts, that's fine too. I mean, that terrifies me in cash games. Hurts 3 push touchdowns or whatever last week. I'm not fading Hurts in cash games, but you can. There's not much more we can tell anybody.
Yeah, let's get into some of these takes here. I think a big one is Chiefs wide receiver here.
That's the biggest one. It's going to decide the slate probably.
We're talking about Hollywood Brown. We've had this conversation pretty much almost every playoff round here. It was that first Texans game. It was okay, Hollywood Brown, he had his first 2 games, 15 targets. Now he's had some rest, ready to go. And then a 0 against the Texans. And I mean, you could tell from just Mahomes and the Chiefs, we're seeing all these guys pop up with receptions. Noah Gray, Smith-Schuster, P. Ryan had a reception. I think Watson had a reception last game. Maybe not. He had something last game, I thought.
He caught a 2-point.
Okay, that's what it was. So you have all these guys who are getting looks. Hopkins, whatever. Hopkins hasn't really done a ton since Hollywood Brown has been back, just because those guys are kind of splitting. I don't know if they're splitting snaps.
Hopkins has fallen behind Juju even.
Okay.
Worthy's just the clear alpha. He's played 82% of the snaps the last 2 weeks. Snap counts have been really interesting. Then Hollywood's been out there as the clear number 2, played 65% and 67%. Juju played over half the snaps last week, 58%, while Hopkins got 18%, season low, 18% of the snaps for Hopkins. He was out there for 12 snaps, but he was targeted in the red zone. And, they targeted him on that slant on 3rd down as well. I think the one that he caught, but pretty glaring snap count numbers there. Justin Watson was out there for 17% and 8% only the week before, but he caught that 2-point. So it's the reason why Juju projects, so much better than Hopkins, and he's $2,400 cheaper. So Hopkins is not going to get ownership on this slate. I mean, let me see. Like, if you're trying to win a big one, the big tournament, yeah, like Hopkins is going to be single digits most likely, and Juju will be double that. So those are the things to consider. I know you and I both like Worthy. I mean, I'll let you finish what you were going to say. I mean, I flag planted Worthy last week, 2 weeks ago, I guess. This week he's going to be popular now, so he brings the fade into play. I mean, I like Worthy again this week. But yeah, what were you going to say? I just wanted to throw those snap counts in there.
Yeah, in my eyes, I think you have Worthy, Kelsey. Those are the guys basically guaranteed targets. Everyone else is hit or miss. The Smith Schuster thing, the Hopkins things. Is that going to happen again? We don't know. I guess that's the thing. I think we maybe look at it. I brought this up before, but with like Travis Kelsey, however old he is, DeAndre Hopkins, 32 years old, back-to-back games. Both those guys weren't used as much, weren't thrown to as much against the Bills in back-to-back games. Now they're given an extra week off. Is this going to help the older guys like Kelsey, like Hopkins? I think it's more of a. I think it's clear if you want to be different, just get Hopkins in your lineup. I think he's never been a fast player anyway, so like he's not there for speed. Eagles known for a bend not break defense, and you want a ball winner. It's assumed here. My thoughts on the game is that they're going to move the ball. The Chiefs are going to move the ball. They're going to get into positions, and then Butker will get his opportunities for some field goals. So that's kind of why I like Butker in cash games. But if they are in the red zone, if they get down to the 10, 15, 5, whatever yard line, throw it to a ball winner, throw it to DeAndre Hopkins. I think I'd rather, I don't know. I don't watch every Chiefs game and I watch every snap for Smith Schuster against DeAndre Hopkins. But if you want that touchdown, maybe he's not going to get the yards. Maybe he's not going to get the targets. I just like, and the fact that, okay, he's more expensive, but he's going to be less popular. Let's get a touchdown, 10 points from a guy who's going to be sub 10%. So I just kind of like Hopkins right there. And also you get the extra week off. So, it wasn't something I was originally looking at just because, his recent numbers, but kind of the more we talk about it, it's like Mahomes spreads the ball around. So, and to be different, you got to find a random touchdown here and there to be different from the rest of a tournament field. So that's one area I like. You could say the same thing about, okay, Noah Gray, whoever on the Chiefs really could have a good game. But I just like, the history of Hopkins, the fact that he's a guy who can get the ball and actually catch it. I think that's a bonus there for Hopkins.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much all that. I think Hopkins is the more likely guy to catch a touchdown. He's going to be way less popular. It's not to say that I don't like Juju necessarily. I think it's fine to play Juju too. It's not like he's going to be massive chalk or anything. But yeah, Hopkins is the clear leverage play in the larger field tournaments for sure. He's going to be way less popular than Hollywood, and then less popular than Juju, like we said, and also Noah Gray. That's another guy. I do kind of like Noah Gray, but I think I've heard other people kind of like him a bit too. I wouldn't necessarily like him at ownership. Again, he won't be like too popular either after 0 targets against the Bills last week, but I don't necessarily want to read too much into that. I've been planning on talking about him as one of our parlay pieces. A couple days ago, his prop was at 11 yards, which is it's 12 and a half when I checked today. So I don't feel as good about it, but yeah, the Eagles have been like I think the most susceptible to tight ends. They have 2 really good outside corners, and we've seen people are already talking about Noah Gray as the future. Earlier this season, Noah Gray is better than Kelsey, blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying that, but I think he might be more involved this week. It only takes probably one catch for him to beat that yardage prop. Not if they keep increasing it, though.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of Cooper DeJean, in the area of Travis Kelce. So if Kelsey's taking up that area in the field, no gray, always there.
And
But
Juju too. Like that's what Juju did last week, even the week before. That's what kind of what Juju's always done. So I don't mind Juju as like a value piece. But yeah, I think he has less touchdown upside than Hopkins, like you said. They did throw to Hopkins in the end zone last week. I think he'd be more likely to be in there on like big third or fourth downs. So yeah, good breakdown.
yeah, I guess my thing with Smith Schuster, it's like, what is his upside? Last week when he had 8 points, I guess that's his
And
upside, and then
that's his upside, right?
a lot of people are playing him. So like, who are you gaining on? I
The
guess
thing is, it probably would be enough in a lot of cases if no one, no one under the kickers is like projected for more than 4 points. So you really don't, you might not need much out of them, especially if like Saquon has a game or AJ Brown has a game and you need both quarterbacks and one or two of those expensive guys. Then yeah, like this is a slate that you could win with a zero from a $200 player. We saw it multiple times in the regular season. I've heard people talking about one catch from a Johnny Wilson or a Justin Watson can win it for you in certain scenarios.
which is why Showdown NFL DFS
is really annoying.
yeah.
And like frankly, for this game sucks. It's like you're gambling. It's a lottery. Like you should take some chances, but like the skill is not. I don't know. The skill is more in the game theory side of it. Like the guys that really have chances to win these things are the guys putting in 150 lineups. Like I tend to avoid these crapshoots. Like how many people are in this main one? Like 500,000 entries.
Yeah.
I'm trying to focus on some smaller field stuff where I don't have to play like Nico Remiglio and hope he returns a punt for a touchdown or something. I've heard people talking about all that stuff.
Well, we got 2 weeks. We can talk about. There's
Yeah, of
everything.
course. That's what you need to do, though. Like I said, in a lot of scenarios, it's just going to be the guy that gets one catch, or just like a Johnny Wilson. Like who's that? Who's the third string tight end that was out there for a couple goal line plays? Hendershot was out there for a few plays. Like P Ryan, like you said, P Ryan. We didn't talk about P Ryan. P Ryan's going to catch some ownership just because no one else is viable there. He's going to be out there in hurry up stuff. And we saw him with a big catch on that big third or fourth down last week. I like including P Ryan under 1.5 catches in our parlay.
Oh, okay. Under 1.5 catches.
Under 1.5 catches. I mean, it's juiced up now to like minus 200 or something, but I think it's a good piece.
It seems like a big number with. Let's get into that while we're on the Chiefs and running backs here. We basically haven't mentioned Hunt or Pacheco here. Hunt 6,400, Pacheco 5,200. What are your thoughts here? So it seems like over the last couple of games, it's like Hunt's role. Pacheco doesn't really have it after coming back from injury. Is there any chance that Pacheco, this is the game for Pacheco, and he's rested after a couple weeks, or is Hunt the better tournament play, I guess?
Yeah, that's a great thing to finish on. I think Hunt has clearly usurped Pacheco in every situation, really. Goal line work, just in every down work. But you're going to see that in ownership. So I don't like Hunt's not going to be popular, but he'll be way more popular than than Pacheco. Like, you can play Hunt for his 2 touchdown upside. Like, he could run for a couple short touchdowns. But Pacheco at no ownership is interesting. I think like you said, I think they kind of ride the hot hand. It just depends on how Pacheco starts. Pacheco will get some early carries. If he looks good on them, what if he busts a 15-yarder? They'll keep giving it to him. If he doesn't have success early, then it's going to be Hunt. So I think he's fine in tournaments in those big field tournaments. Like, I'm not considering him at all for small stuff. Let me check ownership. Like, Pacheco's going to be around 10%, I'd guess, and Kareem Hunt probably around 25%. So neither are going to be that popular, and they both have merit. Like, you could consider Hunt in your smaller field stuff if you wanted to as leverage there, or you could consider Pacheco in the large field stuff as leverage there.
Yeah, it's a similar situation to the wide receivers. It's like, okay, if you're trying to win $1 million here, maybe Pacheco is the guy.
It's strictly game theory. You're right.
Yeah.
Like, if you make your favorite Kareem Hunt lineup and move it down to Pacheco, it's going to leave you like 1,500 salary. That's the way you can, only have a few dupes in a tournament like that. But you got to make some uncomfortable clicks.
Yeah, that's
other things like we could run through, like no one captaining kickers, stuff like that. Like, do we even? We've talked about this before. If you're playing those like the largest field stuff, like, I guess that's the stuff you got to consider. Defenses aren't going to be that owned on this slate. You got to consider them. I don't know, Adam. What else can we say?
I am the king of captaining kickers, so
yeah. I mean, you've told us a couple times about Butker. If you could get can we get a 5 field goal game from Butker?
We might.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know what's going to happen here. Bend
Right.
but don't break defense here for the Eagles. Maybe we get 5. We get 5 field goals. We're looking at
maybe you only need 4. A couple 50-yarders in there. We're
looking at what, a 25 to 21 type game. Hey, who knows?
Sure. You need Saquon in there. You need Saquon to rush for over 100 and a touchdown, because you're going to need, you're probably going to need him to be optimal if you're captaining the kicker. You know what I mean? Like, if you're captaining cheap guys, it's to afford the expensive ones. I wouldn't captain cheap guys and not do that. Yeah.
Guys.
Nah, I think
that's the reason you're playing. That's the reason you're captaining Butker, is so you can get Barkley.
Exactly. Yeah, I think you're asking for too much there in a game like this.
So speaking of Barkley, how popular is he going to be in tournaments, given his price?
Yeah,
like him as a captain, like, is that going to be? Are people just going to throw him in, and then you get Juju Smith-Schuster and just like a couple of cheap guys to try and make it work, kind of a thing? You are muted, Ryan.
Sorry. Yeah, I don't really know. I know that he's not going to be nearly as popular as he's been the last 2 weeks because of this price increase. He just can't be. I still think he'll still be played, obviously. Like, I see him as he's still going to be one of the highest, maybe the highest owned captain, like right there with Mahomes. But I think he'll be about the same percent owned as Hurts. And in the last couple weeks in Showdown, like, everyone just captained Barkley 2 weeks ago, and everyone just captained Barkley the week before. This week, it's much tougher to do that. So, I think Barkley's captain ownership will be around 15 to 20%, which is
still pretty
lower
high.
than it. Yeah, it's still pretty high, but it's lower than it's been. I mean, people look at his game log. He's scoring 30 and 40 points every other game. He's got a massive prop again, 111 yards, and I saw minus 200 to score 1 touchdown, just outrageous. That, if he hits those props, that's 20 DFS points right there. Yeah, so I don't know. He'll be popular, but not as popular as he's been in recent weeks.
Is there anything specific we want to touch on for the Eagles? Just like AJ Brown, Devonta, that kind of thing, just for tournaments?
Yeah, I don't know. I think the only thing you can say is really ownership. Goddard's going to be more popular than both of them. Do with that what you will. I've heard people touting Goddard as the top play. I've heard people touting Goddard unders, because now after these recent games, his props are higher than they've ever been. And so that makes sense too. If you're one of those people that don't look at recent stuff as much as long-term stuff, maybe you want to fade the Goddard chalk. These are all tough decisions,
Yeah,
Also, let me
I
add
was
to that.
hoping
Like,
I was hoping before I looked at the slate that Goddard wouldn't be so cheap, but because he's so cheap, it's going to make him more popular. So that's
yeah,
the
and because of
downside there.
right, exactly. His recent logs look great. He's been great in the playoffs, and I believe the Chiefs allowed more yards to tight ends than any team in the league, more fantasy points to tight ends than any team in the league. I believe. Maybe it was just more yards. I don't know. One of those. It's a fine matchup. Is the
According
point?
to DraftKings,
Chief,
you're 27th.
Okay, the Chiefs have some. The Chiefs are very good on the outside, and they allow stuff to tight ends. So, yeah, Goddard's a great play, but if you want to fade him because he's going to be popular, that's fine.
What's the read on Butker versus Jake Elliott here? More people on Butker just because Elliott's missed a lot of field goals?
You're exactly right. So I've heard people say that makes Elliott a good tournament play. I've heard people betting Elliott over 1.5 field goals because his numbers now a little juiced because he's been not bad because he's missed and because the Eagles tend to go for it on fourth down a lot. So I think Elliott's good for tournaments. I think Butker is good for cash games and tournaments. Just in general, a kicker has a good chance to be optimal on a slate like this. So they're definitely in play in every format.
Do we need to talk about defenses here?
I mean, no, I think, not just that they won't be that popular. So if you want to play one, that's fine. I've heard people talking about Eagles defense with Saquon captain. People like that move. It just makes
Eagles
sense.
Blowout. I think everyone's
course.
looking at it's like, what was it, 3 years ago, 31-9 Bucks win when Tom Brady was there. Eagles defense, maybe not as good as that Bucks version, but that was a game where Mahomes was, under duress the entire game, got sacked a bunch, but obviously,
I don't mind the low owned.
Yeah, this is a different Mahomes, but either way.
Yeah, but also you hear people saying the Eagles have the best defense in the NFL. So, why not if you want to take a shot there?
Yeah, and if you're down there, what's the competition here? Eagles 4,200, Chiefs 4K. You're at Elliott's 4,800, Hopkins is 4,400.
Right.
And then you're basically down to Noah Gray at 2,800. So if you're in that range, they're not going to be popular. Why not, I guess?
Yeah, like you said, you're hoping like DeAndre Hopkins, you're hoping for 10. You're trying to hope for 10 from Hopkins. Like a defense can get there too. Defense can get you 8. There's also return touchdowns. We've seen these quarterbacks get sacked recently.
Somewhat.
Well, I just, we can transition. I saw Hurts got sacked 7 times against the Rams a couple weeks ago. Maybe he's not quite as mobile as he's been.
I was in the snow.
Yeah, I'm just, took a couple sacks last week.
All right, before we're done with DFS, I'm gonna leave with a Butker captain lineup, and I should say that I do like leaving. I usually like leaving salary, maybe like at least over 500 remaining salary, because when you get in showdowns like this, you're gonna be too similar, especially as Ryan was saying, these massive contests. So like I have remaining 300 salary in this one. I'm probably not going to do it just because it's going to be duped by whoever if you want to get extra different, you want to have some remaining salary left. So I put together Butker, Barkley, Mahomes, Goddard, Worthy, and then that last spot, it basically you fill in with Kareem Hunt there. So you're left with 300. I don't know. In case you want to get the 14 points from Butker, and then you get 150 rushing yards from Barkley, a couple touchdowns. He steals Hurts touchdowns this time, and you can tweak that however you want. But
the one thing I would say is, if you need a lot of field goals from Butker, it's going to be very, very hard for Mahomes and Kareem Hunt to get there. You have to fade. You can fade Mahomes in Butker kicker in Butker captain lineups. You definitely can, because in a lot of those scenarios, Mahomes has one touchdown. Again, you need Butker to have a bunch of field goals, so it's going to be very hard for Kareem
Let's
Hunt
replace
and
him. Let's replace him with Kelsey. You got 1,300 left, and
yeah,
you
that's
get
fine.
8 catches for 100 yards from Kelsey and no
Right? Yeah,
touchdowns.
yeah, something like that is fine.
I like how I'm building my DFS lineup off the bend but don't break ability of Vic Fangio's Eagles defense. Field goals, yards, no touchdowns. How about that?
Yeah, Saquon captain with 5 Chiefs.
I can't wait for the
I've
5
heard people
touchdowns
mention
for the
that one too.
Chiefs. Saquon captain
Actually,
with 5 Chiefs.
it makes a little bit of sense. You just everything. Saquon rushes for over
Yeah.
102 touchdowns, and you just have like the Chiefs playing catch up or whatever. Or, yeah,
Yeah, get out to an early lead. A popular bet I've heard is Eagles first half money line, Chiefs money line for the game. It's like plus 750 or something. Just
yep.
I
Don't
think that's
mind that one.
happened. I think that's happened the last 2 Chiefs Super Bowls. They've been down by 10 at halftime, something like that. So
Classic Chiefs.
yeah. So that would that would give way to Barkley captain and then Chiefs basically throwing the ball a bunch second half kind of
Yep.
thing. So
Maybe you throw in Philly D in that lineup for a couple sacks and a couple picks.
yeah.
But it could be a good transition to our single game parlay.
You got any other you got a lineup you want to give to the people? 2,000 remaining salary lineup. You don't do something
No,
like
but
that?
I got a route. I'm not gonna in small field stuff.
Okay. Single
I'm
entries,
looking at
etc.
yeah. I'm looking at though like Eagles receiver AJ Brown specifically. I could see him getting squeezed, like just being much less popular than these other guys, than Barkley, Goddard, Kelsey, even. I'm considering AJ Brown. I really like Worthy again. Like we said, I think I'm just going to eat that chalk. Yeah, it's unfortunately it's not a great slate for tournaments for me or for anyone if you like the chalk.
Sorry, Ryan. We'll get him next year.
I might play a few in the lotto.
Okay. All right, SGP time. So we talked a little bit. Goddard plus 50 plus yards. How do you like that one?
I don't mind it. I'm not like in love with it, but I
It's
don't.
getting too popular. That number has moved up
I
basically throughout
wouldn't
the
care
last 2
about.
weeks.
Yeah, that's the only thing I don't love, like from an analytical standpoint. But I don't really necessarily care about that here. Like if he's going to get over 50 yards, like we wanted in our parlay, but I don't know how good I feel about it.
Okay. We got under 1.5 P Ryan receptions. We
I
got
like that.
6 plus Butker points.
Okay. Okay. Here, I'm going to bring up some odds right now. I'll give it. Here's my favorite piece to start with.
Okay.
And you tell me what you think. Let me see. So you talked about what Phillies bend but don't break. We've seen how Mahomes has sort of been
Passing attempts.
shorter stuff, dink and dunk. Mahomes hasn't thrown an interception since week 11. It's been like 9 games or something. So my favorite to start us off is Mahomes under 0.5 interceptions, which
Okay.
is it's gotten higher now. It's up to minus 135, but I still think there's value at minus 135.
Okay. I'm building the parlay at DraftKings for anyone wondering. I'm getting minus 142 odds as I'm looking at it.
See, these are they're getting juiced by the day. Everything
Yeah.
I've looked at since Wednesday, like it's just unreal what they do to you on these single game parlays, and the numbers just get worse and worse if you don't bet them early. But yeah, I still like that one to start it. Again, like other ones I was looking at, stuff with the receptions and receiving yards. Do we like any, Noah Gray and Hopkins used to be at 11. Now they're both at 12 and a half yards. Can make some arguments for there. Like I did like Noah Gray at 11 and a half.
Let's look at worthy receptions. Again,
Yeah. So
okay.
yeah, that's. Do we like? I want to include Worthy, but last week I had this same question: do you go receptions or yards? And then he had those two little screen passes that they counted as rushing attempts because they were like just a little bit backwards. So, you run that risk. He still had 6 catches. He still beat both props. I mean, I think we can include anything for Worthy. If you like catches better, yards better, touchdown.
See, 5+ catches is -194. And then let's look at receiving yards. If we do 40+ is -293, 50+ -168.
50 plus.
I actually like, let me see his rushing props as well.
I don't mind if you keep it safer. Yeah, I don't mind. I don't mind either way.
Rushing attempts, 2+.
What did you say his receptions was? Over 5.5 should be plus money.
5+, which would be 4.5, is minus
yeah,
like 192.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, 5.5 is plus 110.
What if we over 6.5 rushing yards? Or
that one, yeah, I don't know. I think we can include Mahomes' rush yards in some way. We
I
talked about that, but I really like that.
I have over 5.5 rushing attempts for Mahomes, so we don't have to worry about kneel downs at the end of the game.
Okay, yeah, that's all right. Kneel downs help though, right? In that scenario.
For rushing attempts, yeah, but for rushing yards, it's been a popular thing in betting circles that he is like one of the quarterbacks who kneels down like more than 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage.
Yep.
And if he has like 3 of them, he could have -20 yards in the final drive, kind of a thing.
Yeah. What's his? Let me see. What is this? Wow, it's his rush prop is all the way up to 29.5. Wow. Hurts is 37.5. Pretty crazy. Only an 8-yard difference in their rushing props. What else could we include here? I was thinking,
I like Eagles plus 4.5.
Sure, that's fine. I was going to say Chiefs plus 3, but yeah, the Eagles 4. Either one. I
mean, we could do both. We did last year. We did +7 for each team.
Oh, you try to hit both. Try to hit a close game.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mind.
I mean, this feels like a close game.
It does.
All right, Mahomes under interceptions. I'll put this in the graphic for the people since it's confusing. All right, let me look at the lines here.
Then, like anything else you include in these, you need to be thinking about like a script that you want to play.
Plus 4.5 for both teams. How about that?
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Whatever you want to do. Like, if you think the Chiefs are going to win.
All right, we're at plus 2,500.
That's pretty nice.
Though you didn't like the Goddard 50+ reception yards.
I think that's okay. Maybe catches. What's his receptions prop? I don't know what I like better between receptions and yards there. What feels safer?
We can do.
Like, can you do like over
4?
Something that's a lot.
3.5 over 3.5 is -299. 4.5 is -137.
Yeah, I mean, over 3.5 is like a lock, but it doesn't give you much. What, -299? I don't know. I don't mind including that though. You can just keep it at 50 yards if you want.
Let's see.
He hadn't been yards. Over that.
He's pretty close to that number. We're doing a semi-safe parlay, so let's just do over 3.5 receptions.
Do we want to? Okay, I was gonna say, yeah. If you were doing yards, you could include Hurts.
We're still at plus 2,100, so we're good here.
Do we want any Hurts overs, or are you worried about like it being a Saquon game and the under the under hitting.
I don't think anything's safe with Hurts.
Oh, I like Mahomes over 1.5 touchdowns. Mahomes over 1.5 touchdowns. Passes. Passing TDs. Mahomes over 1.5, minus 170.
Minus 175. Okay. I'm trying to read this. Oh, okay. Yeah, the numbers on here. I'm just on DraftKings. They have 1.5 in some of these, and they have 1+, 2+. So it's just like more confusing than it needs to be.
Right. Do we want a Chiefs TD or no? I guess it'd
We're
be
at
worthy.
we're at plus 3,000 here.
Okay, I don't know how big are we trying to go? Do we want a sack? Throw in a George Karlaftis sack for minus 120.
We did 650 to 1 last season, and you said you wanted smaller, so up to you.
Okay. No, I mean that's fine.
All right, we'll do plus 3,000. How about that?
Yeah, that's fine. Again, like, and I'm gonna make some of these smaller ones on my own, and like consider scripts. Like, if you think the Chiefs are winning, I like Hurts. You can include Hurts overs. He's got low passing props. That's where I include like a sack from. I think Hurts has been taking a few more sacks than recently, and Karlaftis has just been unbelievable. Like, by far the most likely on the Chiefs to get a sack, in my opinion. And I see, like, you see his number too, juiced minus 120 to get a sack. But like,
Yikes!
those still. I mean, that's because they know it's like relatively likely.
So what's your final projection on the game?
I'm on the square side, man. Again, I picked the Chiefs the last 2 years. So if you're sitting in my shoes, I don't know. Like, I get everything about Philly, but to me, it's Mahomes, best quarterback ever. I'm just gonna ride with Mahomes. He's never not won before. So, like, and there's plenty of times throughout the season. I know it's different now, that I can't believe like how many times I cursed the Eagles, or just talking with my friends, like, how can we bet on the Eagles? How bad are the Eagles? How bad is Hurts? Well, now again, like, it's not like that anymore.
A lot earlier in the
media
season.
was saying, look, so when you just combine all that, like,
early in the season, they were bad.
That's what I bet the Chiefs the last 2 years, and they won. So I probably will do that again. I'm on the square side, if that's the square side.
I think it is, and
I told you before. Yeah, I told you before we started. Like, every podcast I've listened to has bet the Eagles, basically. So I don't know. Do whatever you think. Don't listen to me.
Yeah, I'm on that side too. It's you basically can't bet. You can't go against the Chiefs right now. And I just look back at the last few weeks in the playoffs, when we entered the playoffs with what Hurts was doing, with what this Eagles offense was doing. Like, some people were saying, oh, they're lucky that it was snowing against the Rams, otherwise they would have lost that game. And now they should be favored. They're definitely a better team than the Chiefs, like a team that should have lost at home to the Rams, but they only won because Saquon busted off some long runs in the snow. And then they come alive against the Commanders, who don't have a good defense, and now everyone's back on them. I mean, just the narrative is kind of ridiculous to me, if I'm being honest. But
you're right.
They have been good. They have been good. Like, they haven't lost in forever. They won. You look at the schedule. They won at Baltimore. They have some really nice wins. But you trust Mahomes more than Hurts. If this is a close game, which we're expecting it to be, if this is a close game in the fourth quarter, who are you going to trust? You're going to trust Mahomes. So
I'm with you. People thought, including myself, that the Eagles were pretty fortunate against the Rams to get some snow.
There you go.
Pretty fortunate. I think Matt Stafford was absolutely dealing, and I'm with you.
All right, for everyone watching on YouTube or Twitter, I know this is also in your podcast feeds, but we have the super team single game parlay up right now. It's plus 3,000 odds. If you want to move that to like plus 100,000 odds, just move some of these numbers up. I'll read it off here so we get it in your ears here. Goddard over 3.5 receptions. Mahomes over 5.5 rushing attempts. Mahomes under half an interception. Pirine under 1.5 receptions. Butker over 5.5 points. Worthy over 4.5 receptions. Eagles plus 4.5 on the spread. Chiefs 4.5 plus 4.5 on the spread. Mahomes over 1.5 pass touchdowns plus 3,000 odds. There we go. That's the parlay. What do you think? Are we gonna hit this? Yeah, he's muted, so I think he's saying yes. We are gonna hit this.
Muted again. Yeah, we are gonna hit that. I really like that one.
That is 10. If you bet $10, you're gonna win 300. So bet 100, you're gonna win 1,000. If you bet 1 million, you're gonna win 300 million. So just keep that in mind if you're betting $1 million.
Let me get your quick thoughts on something else I heard. Jahan Dotson, his under 0.5 receptions is plus money. He hasn't been targeted the last 2 games. I don't know. That might be a dumb bet. He's still like out there a lot, but for him to have 0 catches is plus money. I'm just saying.
I remember when he got that touchdown against the Packers, and I was
like you know that it's plus money because he's still out there quite a bit. But it crossed my mind. Anyway,
go for it.
No.
Jahan Dotson.
I don't like bets where you can lose on one play like that necessarily. That's kind of why I liked other things like the Noah Gray line is very small, and even the Hopkins line, they just need 1 catch.
Mahomes just needs 1 interception.
We didn't could have talked about a bunch more props. You're right. I know that one. That's trust me, I thought about that too. But you need a base. I think that one.
I think we're good. I think we got enough information to the people in 56 minutes here, 57 minutes.
For sure.
But you can go to rotowire.com/pod if you're looking for a 48-hour trial. No, I know NFL season's done, but guess what? We're 2 soccer guys, rotowire.com/soccer. Check out the soccer section, but also MLB is starting up. We got a bunch of MLB content. James Anderson and the crew have a bunch of content going up on the site. So if you're into fantasy baseball, check that out as well on rotowire.com. But that's all we got. You can find Ryan at Ryan Belongia. I'm at Zdroik. Ryan, that's it. That's it for the NFL season. So congrats on making it this far. Let's win $1 million, or let's just win some small single entries and win 50,000. I don't know, something like that.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And again, check out rotowire.com.
Thanks, Adam. Good luck.